What's up? Welcome to 49ers Coast to Coast. Grant Cohn, Jason DePonte's show, simulcasting live on both of our channels. If you would like to tip Jason directly, you can do so. Go to his channel. It's easy to do. Jason, how you doing?
I'm great, and I'm actually relieved that I don't have to be the one in control of the comments and the super chats because it felt like a quarterback who was thrust into a position where he the
Cover
lights
two,
were
cover three.
the lights were too big, the game was
You were
moving too
seeing ghosts out there. You you
Oh,
you pulled a
now.
Sam Darnold last week.
Here we go.
We're gonna talk about Darnold. We're gonna talk about Purdy. We're gonna talk about Trey. Some beat writers we really respect and like very much saying some stuff. So we got to talk about it. Let's talk about Brock Purdy first though, because John Lynch went on KMBR this afternoon, gave an update, and there were a few things he said. He said, first of all, like there's a whole team of people working with Brock, and they're in Arizona, and essentially they brought the team up to Santa Clara. So Brock and the people working with Brock are up here, and working under the supervision, or at least near the Niners. So that's one thing, and I guess that's good. He's not throwing yet, but he's 8 weeks out of the surgery, and in week 12, he is supposed to start what Lynch says lobbing a football, and he says it's an indicator of where he's at, what he can do in 4 weeks, and also he's not going to be like throwing it full strength. He's going to be lobbing it, and he has to build up his strength, stamina, reps, distance, all those things. Kind of what Jimmy did last year, if you remember. He was coming off a shoulder surgery, and he was cleared, but he wasn't really practicing for a long time or himself. If you ask him, I think he might say he never was himself. So what do you think of this update from John Lynch?
I think it's more in line with the idea that they're trying to let you know that they believe that Purdy has a chance for week one. And I think that would probably be best case scenario for them and this organization with the way that they've been speaking this entire offseason. You look around at certain players, quarterbacks, right, who have had this type of surgery, and generally that's when they give you that broad timeline of this many months to this many months because they want to cover all their bases. But when you listen to them speak, they kind of always gave you the indication that they believe that he was ahead of schedule. He was going to be fine, and he was going to keep. Once it was right after the combine, I feel like where the pendulum swung to he's going to be all right actually because Mike Florio reported at the combine that the 49ers were still sniffing around Kirk Cousins, which I absolutely heard that there as well too. But that was
Just
based
in
on
case.
that was based on the idea that Brock might have had Tommy John surgery. They still
that was before the procedure. Right.
So they weren't sure. When they found out and they got an optimistic timeline of his, then they just said, all right, we don't have to worry about that anymore. We're just going to roll with our guy. So again, like this feels like something that they've wanted, something that they're pushing for, and now something that kind of feels like a realistic possibility at this point when you look at how they're talking the progression. He said that he's about 8 weeks, 9 weeks, and 12 weeks is when he's going to start. So again, this is what they want.
Let me disagree with you slightly.
Sure.
I don't know that they necessarily said, let's roll with our guy. I think they said, we don't need to do anything drastic, like go for Cousins, but we're going to get Darnold. And privately, we're going to tell everyone who wants to listen how good Sam Darnold is. So to me, it seems like it's a little bit of a hedge. Like bringing Kirk Cousins isn't a hedge. That's just throwing everyone out. We want Kirk Cousins. Bringing Darnold is a hedge, and you can play both sides. Like we like Brock. Brock's our guy, but he's just not ready yet. And have we told you about Sam Darnold? So to me, that's a little bit what's happening here. And also, I think what's happening is John Lynch's job is to project confidence. You know what I mean? It's not his job to come out and be like, God, I don't know about what Brock's going to be like when he comes. I mean, there's a possibility he might not play and he might not be this. Like, that's what I would do. Like what he does is he goes to be like, oh, Brock's great, man. Brock's such a competitor. He's just attacking this rehab and doing all the right things. Of course, we don't really know. But so, I mean, I think his words are almost meaningless. His confidence is what he's supposed to project. And it's like, I fully expect to see Brock Purdy kind of doing what Jimmy did last year on a side field out there. You can see him, but not practicing. I feel like he's a long way away from that. And I think Lynch kind of said it in an upbeat Lynchian way.
And the other thing is to kind of, not to push back on your disagreement, it's more like what I meant by them rolling with the guy was we can give another year to Brock, see how he progresses. And Kirk Cousins is going to be a free agent next year.
Right. I totally agree.
So why right now would we throw trade assets at him right now? Because if Brock Purdy unfortunately doesn't return to that level of play, or if he unfortunately regresses, or if the injury is more severe than they believe, they always have that kind of in their back pocket that they can go back after Kirk because Minnesota's quite done with him. So, I mean, it's just the 49ers.
The idea that
we're going to talk about this forever.
The idea that year 8 of the Shanahan era would bring in the beginning of the Kirk Cousins era is kind of amazing. As the founding member of the Shanastans, or no, it was the Only Shans Club. Would that be the final straw for you, Kirk Cousins, or are you still optimistic with because you can't really write off Kyle. He's not a bad coach.
No, he's not.
He's flawed.
Again, like his track record right now is very good, especially when you consider that they've fumbled the quarterback position over and over, right? I think that you can either look at this one of two ways. You can say it's impressive what he's done without a quarterback, or why hasn't he figured out the quarterback position yet? So
it's impressive how much he's fumbled that position.
I mean, over and over. And think about this, and we're going to talk about Trey Lance and everything. When you think about what his development entailed, and then when that development was needed, Kyle Shanahan looked around like, wait, he needs reps? He needs development? What are we doing here with this guy? I can't.
Why didn't anyone tell me this? Like, dude, did you not read Lance Zierlein's draft profile? Right there.
So it's like he had this idea in his head of, well, Trey Lance is going to sit for a year, and when he comes out the next year, he's going to be ready to go because he's set. Yeah. No, the young man needed reps. He still needs reps, and that was going to be a part of the process. The problem is that the timeline of drafting Trey Lance and his development did not line up with what Shanahan was prepared to be patient with. And that's the weirdest part. We've heard stories about, Lance is the most, ready to play right away. No, it was probably Mac Jones. It's probably Mac Jones if you wanted that. If you wanted a guy who was ready to go right away, no development, nothing like that, Mac was there for you at 12. But when the developmental quarterback and the guy who needed reps actually needed reps, Kyle Shanahan looked around like, what the hell's going on here, man? And that's the part that doesn't I don't understand. Like, that's the part that I don't get from him.
I have a coach that been talking to off the record for a decade plus, and I like to sort of bounce my ideas off of him. I kind of think of it as like reality testing. He was in the league for a long time. I'm not going to say who he is, but if my idea is stupid, he'll tell me. And back 2 years ago, I was trying to sell him on Trey Lance because I thought that was the kind of project you want to undertake. And he was skeptical, and he was like, look, I hear everything that you're saying, but even if you're 100% right about what he could become, aren't he and Kyle Shanahan on different timelines? Like, doesn't Kyle need to kind of win? Like, he can't miss the playoffs this year. He can't take a step back. Like, I just don't see it as actually a good fit. And I think that coach was right.
Right. And usually, Grant, when a team is picking at the third spot, they're a bad football team. And they're a team that can allow bumps and bruises, whatever.
No expectations.
No, the Bears could
usually a coach in his first year.
Right. Like, the Bears could take Justin Fields, let him play. Trevor Lawrence, go ahead, knock yourself out, kid. Even Zach Wilson, go ahead, knock yourself out, kid, whatever it is. But the Niners did have to win. And there was a lot of pressure on Kyle Shanahan to immediately get back. And again, I mean, you can't really argue you can argue that they didn't finish, but they made the NFC Championship game again. But that's what Jimmy
Garoppolo real quick, if people forget, if they had missed the playoffs in 2021, that would have been 4 of 5 years missing the playoffs. Like, that's unacceptable. There was pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then now you look, and it's 3 or 4 years you're in the NFC title game, and you completely change the narrative around yourself.
Now you can play Trey Lance.
Now,
Sam Darnold. I meant Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold. Yeah. I have a problem with, unfortunately, this whole Trey Lance situation is going to be something that we're going to look back on if he does end up leaving the 49ers or whatever, and he moves on with his career. And we're still going to try to figure out where it went wrong. I don't necessarily blame the kid. I don't blame the kid. The kid needed to play.
I think it went wrong before it started. It got like when you hear the Colts say, hey, we understand it's a little risky they didn't say that, but we understand there's some questions about taking someone as green as Anthony Richardson. Well, we're not going to do what the Niners did, essentially. We're going to play him.
You're going to play him. And remember, Shane Steichen helped Herbert, helped Jalen Hurts. I think it's a good plan. The Colts aren't ready to participate in the playoffs right now. Fine. That's beautiful. But when you look at Trey Lance, we're going to look back at this and say, man, there is a world where maybe Trey Lance isn't a good quarterback, but we're never going to know for sure whether that's the case because I am not in the business of taking 5 games as a sample size and just saying that's it. And also, I am not in the business of just using practice and training camp as the way you can judge a quarterback. Because if that's the case, the guy before him would have been fired a bunch of times because he was not good in practice at all.
Agree. That's absolutely true. There's also a world where the Niners don't trade up and Trey Lance gets drafted by, say, the Falcons, and no one cares about football in Atlanta. And he just goes there and they care about college football. Excuse me. They care about Saturday football in Georgia.
That place is pretty electric. I thought they
full of Niner fans. I don't know. I was in the press box. You were out there. That's the way I saw it. That felt like a Niner home game to me. But what I was saying is, isn't there a world where he just goes to Atlanta and plays on a bad team with Arthur Smith, and now in year 3 he's good? Like, that could have happened, but he got the team traded up for him. He went to Drama Central, media darling Niners, ready to win it all, taking Jimmy's job. Jimmy's still there. I mean, it was just drama the whole time. If he had gone to Atlanta, no one would have cared for the first 2 years.
And that's the thing is, so many people have pegged the 49ers as the best situation for a quarterback because you watch them win games with other quarterbacks.
Backups.
They're just a quarterback away. But I would argue it was probably the worst situation for Trey Lance based on the timeline, based on that locker room, based on the way that Kyle needed to win, and he had to win. That's always going to be my biggest criticism of him right now is you still have not gotten this right. And the only thing that you're holding in your back pocket is Brock kind of bailed you out a little bit, right? Like with the last pick. And Kirk Cousins is available next year. So if you want to right your wrongs, you can go on back.
We got to get to the next topic. Before we leave, the final thing I think that the Niners learned with the Lance thing is you took a guy like Anthony Richardson, who is inexperienced. Everyone knows he's inexperienced. And your solution to get him to develop him was to not play him. And you said that with a straight face and did it. And we were all like, wait, but he needs experience. And then you get to year 2 and they're like, we really like him. He says he doesn't have experience. It's like, well, yeah, right. And I just love hearing the Indianapolis Colts being like, you have to play to improve. Right. Exactly. That's exactly right.
They kind of looked at other situations in terms of, well, he just can sit for a year and the light bulb's going to turn on and he'll be fine. That's not how
Mahomes played in college. Mahomes was just learning a new system. He wasn't learning how to play.
Right.
Yes. Right. Gammon Brown says, time to ask the hard-hitting questions. Tired of these softball questions. Who wins in a fight, Batman or Spider-Man? I love these questions. Let's start right there. Batman or Spider-Man? I got to go with Spider-Man here. He has superhero powers. I mean, Batman is just clever and rich and yoked.
Batman's rich.
It's true. Spider-Man has no money.
No, Spider-Man is like working jobs, like Batman. Give Batman 24 hours to prepare for Spider-Man, and he's going to come up with a machine to completely neutralize him. Batman can beat the Flash in a race.
That's true. Batman handles like villains like Spider-Man all the time.
And like he has a plan for the Justice League. Every single member of the Justice League. If you ever want to pop off, Batman's got something for you. I'd never underestimate.
Also, Spider-Man's like 20. Right? Like he's not right. He's like the classic Spider-Man is not that old. He's a big kid, essentially. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Good call. I just love Spider-Man as a kid. But I feel you on that.
I mean, but I'm not going to bet against Batman, man. I'm not. He got a plan for everyone.
Hold on. There was a second part of that question, I think.
Yeah, there was.
My cousin actually is a professional cartoonist for he does like the storyboards for the Marvel movies. And when I was a kid, he lives in New York or Philly. I would always be like, so who would win in a fight? Scarlet Spider or Spider-Man? Just all freaking day. And he would be, patient enough. Who was the best Spider-Man? Who was the best Spider-Man?
Live action?
I've only seen the original ones, the Sam Raimi movies. I haven't watched the newer ones.
I'm not a big fan of Andrew Garfield. I would probably say that the best Spider-Man right now, this is a little bit of a hot take, is the Spider-Man from Into the Spider-Verse, the one from New Girl. He does the voice of, I think he's really good. Oh. But if you're asking live action, it's Tom Holland.
Okay. Debo, Ayuk, Team Lance.
Ayuk is.
I think Ayuk is. I think Debo's Team Debo, which is fair.
Team just give me the ball. And he knew Jimmy was
team give me the damn ball.
Over and over.
Yeah. Batman can't beat a RICO case.
Batman has money to make all of it go away, but I don't know.
All right, moving on. The Niners drafted Jair Brown, traded up for him, round 3. It was an aggressive move. It's someone that they clearly like very much. I asked John Lynch after the draft, after round 3, I said, safety to safety, what do you like about Jair Brown? And just no hesitation. John Lynch, Hall of Fame safety, says, oh, he's a baller. and then goes into all the things he likes about him. You've spent a lot of time studying him. What makes Jair Brown a quote unquote baller?
It's the ball hawking skills. It's the way how fast he plays, right? Everybody gets enamored with 40 speed and they look at that, but then they can't translate that to the field, right? And Brown is somebody who can do it over and over. He's very versatile. He feels like a Jimmy Ward guy, right? Jimmy Ward wasn't the fastest, but he wasn't going to give up anything over the top of his head. He's great in run defense. He can come down the slot and cover. I wouldn't say wide receivers, probably tight ends, or probably bigger wide receivers, slower wide receivers he'd be able to take care of. But what you're looking at right now is Steve Wilkes is going to deploy more of a single high look. How much of that is just going to be Hufanga up by himself or Gibson? You know, Hufanga can roam around, and he's much better when he plays fast. Brown and Hufanga kind of mirror each other in terms of play speed, how they play. They have the same sort of deficiencies, I guess is the best way to put it. At times they play a little too fast, run themselves out of the tackle. Their angles
too instinctual.
Right. So you're playing too fast, right? Like you're
right.
The idea is to get him in a spot where if you want him to blitz, send him. Don't let him think, go. Like, but if you have to decipher some things, that's where some things will come in. But Steve Wilkes is a secondary guy. This does feel very much like Steve Wilkes and John Lynch got together on this pick. And they said, this is what we're going to need going forward. Sean Gibson's only here for one more
Kyle,
year.
you stay out of the room. We'll get back to you. Me and Steve got this. Sorry.
Yeah,
I can only imagine. Yeah. I can only imagine. We're good.
No, but I love the way that he plays his physical nature. And the other thing that I really like, and this has nothing to do with the evaluation process, is I like when the 49ers identify somebody and they were like, yo, we got to move up and get this guy. And I feel
got to work the board.
Yeah. I
can't let the board work you.
They were convicted. You know, I don't know why John Lynch keeps saying that. But, you know, they were convicted in pick 99. I don't want to get into that. But moving up to 87 tells me a little bit more than pick 99 in terms of they had to make sure they got their guy. And I really enjoyed that about it. But he does fit. He fits the physicality. He fits exactly what the 49ers want to do in terms of versatility and what Steve Wilkes is going to use him for. I really love this pick, man. This is my favorite pick of the draft.
He's going to be good. He's going to be a baller. And I want to point out that I think a lot of fans know what players do at the combine because it's on TV. But then they have pro days, which aren't televised, but you can get the results on draftscout.com. Yep. And this guy, Jair Brown, did a full workout at the combine, then went and did it again at the pro day and improved his 40 time. He went from 4.65 to 4.58. He took his vertical jump from 32 inches to 35. I mean, he's a really good athlete, and he's not as slow as you think. And when I was watching the film of him, what stood out to me is the blitzing. And what was interesting, like last year, D'Amico, I don't really consider D'Amico's pressure packages that sophisticated, but the one he really liked to do was the Talanoa blitz. Mm-hmm. And he would actually get Talanoa unblocked a fair amount. And I've never seen someone miss so many point blank shots as Talanoa. Like, how many times did he have to do dead to rights to the quarterback and just fall off the guy? So he'll figure it out. But now you got a guy in Jair Brown who I think is a better blitzer, straight up.
Give me 1 second, because I think you're hearing me through this and not this.
The AirPods? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hearing you through the payphone at Santa Rita?
Yeah, pretty much. Hold on, give me 1 second. You can keep going.
Will you accept these charges? No.
Yeah.
See you in 3 years, buddy.
All right. I got it. This is bad TV right now. I'm terrible.
No, it's all right.
All right.
Better? I was going on about how good of a blitzer Jair Brown is, and it looks to me, not to put down Talanoa, it looks like Jair Brown is more advanced in this area.
And that's the thing is, again, they're mirror images, ball hawks, right? You have the production with interceptions and everything as well, too. All of that stuff can be curbed. And it's the same thing kind of with the Dre Greenlaw and D. Winters comp. You know, it's guys who are fast. Sometimes they need to slow it down. That's it. You can teach that, though. You got to control that aggression, and you got to be able to play within yourself. But you don't want to.
But how many guys can make plays on the back end and behind the line of scrimmage? Like, not that many safeties can do all of that. Plays.
No.
Big plays.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing is everybody's going to have deficiencies, but again, it's up to them to put him in a spot to win. But again, like playing with controlled aggression, making sure that you're playing within yourself while finding a way to tap into what makes them special by playing so hard. That's the coaching part, right? Like that's the part of you don't want to take away what makes the guy special, like Hufanga, right? You don't want to take away what makes Brown very good. You just want to control it and put him in a spot where he can use that at the right time.
And what will be interesting is, Tashawn Gibson is a really good player. And I think a lot of people are being like, well, Jair Brown is going to start over Gibson. Like, well, hold on. Like, he's a really good player. He should be used this year. But I think they mentioned there's 3 safety packages they can use. And with Brown, I think it'd be interesting on third down. Instead of using nickel, you could use dime. And you could take Dre Greenlaw off the field and bring Brown on. And I think he would give you everything Greenlaw gives in coverage. We'd also give you a little bit more in blitzing. I mean, there are things they could do with Brown in his rookie year before he usurps Tashawn Gibson.
I wouldn't be shocked if they're going to run a little bit more 3 safety. They will put him down in the slot in certain places. Maybe use him as an extra linebacker cover guy. Exactly. There's a way to
because they don't have any like serious nickel they're invested in. Jimmy Ward's gone. Isaiah Oliver's good.
Samuel Womack, they should give him another shot. I really liked what I saw in a little bit that he was there. But I did. But it's clear.
I'm just saying, like, new coordinator comes in, brings in like 8 new DBs. Like the writing's on the wall for him and Ambry. They better step up.
Oh, Ambry's done.
I
mean, they drafted another corner. And even last year, when guys got injured, like in that Atlanta game, right? I think it was Mooney Ward left that game. They're literally turning to every corner but Ambry. They put Womack outside, and he gave up the touchdown to Pitts. Like, they are literally going to every single corner except him. He's done. That's another great third-round pick by the 49ers.
Jair Brown, I really like the Niners' defensive picks in this draft. From him to Luter Jr. to D. Winters. Like, D. Winters and Jair Brown, I almost have, like, no question that they're going to be really good starters. I think corner's tough. But I think he could be too. My question is Beal. I mean, I think it's the right kind of risk to take at the end of round 5, but I try to look up his highlights and there's nothing. It's like a minute and it's like him making a couple tackles against a run. And I understand they use him wrong and stuff, but like, is the upside there like rotation? Is he like Jordan Willis kind of project-ish?
Well, the thing is again, like you said, I don't know if they misused him, but they used him in a rotation, right? And he didn't play every single down. Like, he's not a guy that was on every down. I think what you're looking at when you look at Beal is you're looking at get off speed and how fast he is. He's that speed rusher. I don't know if he's Jordan Willis. I think they're trying to find a cheaper version of D4 that they've been trying to replicate since 2019. And I think that if they can take a shot on a guy like that who has a great first step like he does, who has get off, who can get to the quarterback, and they used him sparingly, right? He doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires, right, as a kid.
Right.
I think they are trying to replicate that, and I think that's what more Beal is than anything to them. And, that's a Chris Kosuric pick. That's Chris Kosuric looking around and just saying, this is the guy that I want. Let me get my hands on him. Let's fix him. Or let's coach him up. So the GTFO rating, right? That's what they were saying. They were calling it. Yeah. So that's a Kosuric pick.
I think it's a good pick, and I think he's a good coach. I just think it might be a little unrealistic to expect a guy who wasn't a starter at Georgia for Chris Kosuric to be able to take that guy and make him the 3-down D end. I still feel like his future is as a rotational rusher, which is, those are important. Those are really important.
He could be a obvious passing down guy, and if Drake Jackson can turn into a 3-down guy, that's great. Like, again, you're in that part of the draft, you're taking bets on traits and athleticism. And I feel like Luter, Beal, and Winters, and Jalen Graham, by the way, all those guys, they feel like they have the traits that the 49ers have been looking for in every single one of those positions. Like with Luter, he's long, he has athleticism. Beal's fast, the same thing with Winters, and the same thing with Graham. So it's so strange. As much as I dislike the last 2 picks of their first of the third round, everything else really felt very 49er-ish, and it felt like it made the draft much better for me after pick 99 and 101.
I feel like the Niners are so good at drafting defense. Like, they've had the same scouts for a long time. The coaches, I mean, they really know what they want at every single position, and they've gotten it wrong at enough of them to really like refine their search. On offense, it still kind of feels like Kyle and his dad flying by the seat of their pants sometimes with who they need or who they want. But their defense, I mean, they're very disciplined in what they get. Now let's talk about Sam Darnold. Okay, let me get this because it's just amazing. All right. Dear friend of both of us. Really, I mean, I've known Matt Mayoko my whole life. I love Matt Mayoko like a member of my family. Straight off the bat. Matt Mayoko went off KMBR and talked about Sam Darnold and said some stuff that Jason and I happen to disagree with in a respectful way on a football level. Maddie, if you're watching, it's all love. We just want to
respectfully disagree.
Hey, man, you put it out there, and we thank you for putting it out there. Now we're going to talk about it. Love you, Matt. So he said, go ahead.
I just want to say too, like, Matt, if you're watching, you've been nothing but nice to me. I think the world of you, man. You're the awesome. Greatest. You're nice. You've always been wise with your time and always giving me
good
advice.
At your job.
And you're amazing at your job, by the way. Like, that's it. I just want to make sure.
And I appreciate you giving a take, because I give takes all the time and I'm wrong a lot. So here's what you had to say. He might be, can I say this? The most talented thrower of the football that the 49ers have ever had. Whew. Let's just put him in the very high echelon of guys who can just drop back in the pocket and throw the football. I think that he hasn't really had any chance to succeed since his college days are over. I think he's had 4 head coaches in 5 years, 5 offensive coordinators in 5 years. He's a talented guy. Okay. The last stuff is all true. It's that first sentence. He said, can I say this? The most talented thrower the Niners have ever had. You can't say that. What? Like, not even close. Not even close. I don't understand where Sam Darnold gets his perception that he's just super gifted. Kyle said it. He must be saying it off the record for Matt to say it too. I mean, what do you think of Matt's assessment?
Well, let's do the timeline. I mean, Kyle tried to give a first-round pick to the Jets. Thank God the Jets were like, no, thank you. Yes, I mean, that's true. That's absolutely true.
Was that 2021?
It was right before he ended up in Carolina. They picked up his 5th year, and then they moved him on. But the Jets said no. The Jets said no to a first-round pick. Bonkers, insane. Thank you, little Jets. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Yeah. I can understand talent. The talent has never been an issue with Sam Darnold. He has these throws that are on tape that you look and you say, my goodness.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
But then he has these mind-numbing throws that, for me, have nothing to do with your coach, have nothing to do with the talent around you when you throw the ball into a linebacker's stomach. That has nothing to do with situation. There are some throws on there that you can see and you say, that's what people saw in him at the number 3 pick. But there's not enough of it for me to change the fact that he has been poor for almost 55 games. And that's not situation. That's not coach. That's not. I think it's very easy to say, well, Adam Gase, he's not a good coach. And well, Adam Gase actually got Ryan Tannehill rolling. And you just forget that because it's so easy to throw it at the feet of Adam Gase. So easy to throw it at the feet of the Jets. What about the Panthers, right? So he goes over to Carolina. The last 6 games, this 6-game stretch that everyone is holding up about Sam Darnold has to be the most laughable narrative out there. And I'm going to tell you why. He threw 6 touchdowns and had 5 interceptions. And in many of those games, if anybody watched, Ben McAdoo dumbed down the offense so much that there was no deep shots. He literally said, here's your intermediate throws, throw it on DJ Moore, throw it onto or hand it off to Deontay Foreman. And they made it very easy for him. And the best that I came away with watching those 6 games over again was he was decent. 6 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And someone pointed out there were 2 games in which he had 0 turnovers. So that means in 4 games, he had 5 turnovers.
Yeah.
Grant,
hold on. Let's back up, though. Because Mayoko said in his defense is that Darnold's the most talented thrower of the football the Niners have ever had.
And
so the fumble issue is different.
That's not wrong there. But that's not wrong that he has talent. He's not the most talented.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened to Joe Montana and Steve Young? Like, my goodness, man. Like,
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, are you? Joe Montana wasn't a talented thrower of the football. Steve Young wasn't. Those are 2 of the most accurate throwers of the football in the history of the human race, in the history of the world, Craig. The world, Craig. Not just okay.
Santa Claus jacking people.
The world, Craig. Are we kidding? Like, maybe Sam Darnold has a stronger arm than Steve Young, but so did Jim Druckenmiller. This is a guy with a career completion percentage below 60. Like, chill, Matt. I love you, Matt. But the other thing, let's talk about the fumbles and the turnovers. This went back to USC. You can't blame this all on the Panthers and the Jets. His last year at USC, he threw 13 picks and lost 9 fumbles in 14 games. That's crap. And he did that in college, and he still got drafted 3rd because the year before he had one good year in 2016. That is the source of all of his hype. He wasn't even good his final year in college, not by like these standards. So I don't know. I don't get it.
It's the 6-game sample size in which he played decent. Anybody who tells you he
lose.
Was right,
yeah,
and anybody who tells you, oh, he was amazing, no, he wasn't.
No,
he was not amazing.
No.
If he was amazing, the Carolina Panthers would have kept him and
Brought
not replaced him with Andy Dalton.
A rookie, Andy Dalton. That's
Andy
true.
Dalton
That's what they
is
did.
their starter. They said,
yeah,
you didn't do enough in those 6 games. We'd rather have the red rifle and draft a quarterback. Why don't you bring back Darnold and that quarterback?
He's got red hair.
Like, yeah, it's
you needed a different quarterback with red hair who's older than him.
Ginger hypocrisy. It's ginger hypocrisy. But my question is
it's telling.
My question is this. With those 6 games, and Matt Mayoko's not saying this just because he wants to say it and get his hot takes off. Like, I really think that they believe that. They believe that in the building. They believe that.
That's the thing about Matty. He doesn't, and no disrespect, but I feel like people like Matty, they don't necessarily make their money on takes. So if they have a take, they feel very confident in it, mostly because they're connected. They probably heard it. That's how the team feels privately. Yeah. So he feels fine saying it. That's my guess. Yeah.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. When Matt talks, I listen, but then I understand that there is a lot of his football acumen into it. But a lot of
extremely informed.
But at times it was more like he heard this. Okay. So 6 games in which Sam Darnold was decent. And yet that 6-game sample size outweighs the 49 other games in which he was, can I curse on this program? Dog shit in many of those games. Terrible at quarterback. Like some of the worst throws I've ever seen. And yet the narrative is now, I can't wait to see what Sam Darnold does with Kyle Shanahan and these weapons. And after 5 games with Trey Lance, you never hear anything about that. And that's more concerning to me because 6 games should not weigh 49 and 5 games shouldn't be when you get to the end of your discussion and your evaluation with Trey Lance.
So here's where the logic falls apart with Darnold. People are basically saying without saying he hasn't been given a fair shot. He hasn't been given a fair shot. And they'll list all the excuses, right? All the coaches, all the coordinators. And there's truth to that. But if you're going to stand Sam Darnold next to Trey Lance and say, which one hasn't gotten a fair shot? Sam Darnold, with his 55 career starts in suboptimal circumstances, or Trey Lance, who's getting thrown out of town after 3.5 games. Would you tell me who hasn't gotten a fair shot? How is that even a question? It's obvious.
Sam Darnold has gotten more than a fair shot. He's had 2 teams invest in him.
Yeah. He's had like 9 lives in the league.
The Panthers traded for him.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about the situation with coordinators and all that stuff, usually when quarterbacks perform poorly for their entire career, they don't just wake up one day and they're good. Alex Smith, cool. You guys want to point to that one? I know that's what you're probably saying in the comments. Alex Smith, cool. 1. Geno Smith, cool. 2. Steve Young, cool. 3. Every single other quarterback that has been bad, no matter where they've been, has stayed bad. Unless
Geno wasn't as bad as Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was really bad.
They just got rid of Geno and Geno became a journeyman, like at the end of the day when it comes to that. But my thing is I dislike when people point to like the 3 quarterbacks who turned it around and leave out the 67 other quarterbacks who were terrible and never were good, even though they were talented, right? Like again, I'm
also Alex Smith. He turned it around, but he wasn't ultimately good enough.
Alex Smith was a fine quarterback.
Fine quarterback. He was never going to win a Super Bowl.
He never turned it into like this electric. Like Steve Young's the only person who went somewhere was with the Tampa Bay Bucks. He was terrible, and then turned into one of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen.
I feel confident saying on the record right now on camera that Sam Darnold will never, ever, 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 ever be Steve Young.
I would take money on that bet as well. And then with Geno Smith had a very good year, but now he's got to do it again. So was last year an aberration? I'm happy for him. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So I dislike when people point to, well, Alex Smith did it, Geno Smith did it. Okay.
It's doable.
But point to the other people who never were anything when they were terrible, like in the beginning
of their
career.
People be like, hey, man, let him play with Christian McCaffrey. He did play with Christian McCaffrey.
You know who didn't? Trey Lance.
Exactly. I feel like every argument people make to say, hey, don't rush to judgment on Sam Darnold. It's like, okay, but why don't you follow your own advice with Trey Lance? Don't rush to judgment on Trey Lance. Like, what are you talking about?
That's it. Yeah. Like, look, Grant. Maybe there is a really good quarterback in there, Sam Darnold, right? It's possible. There's in the range of outcomes,
or one that doesn't suck as much as we think he sucks.
Exactly, right? So there is a world where Sam Darnold is good. There's a world where Trey Lance might not be good, right? Yeah. But people dismissing 49 games of Sam Darnold and
not to mention his final year at USC.
And that too. And then with Trey Lance, it's books written, get him out. Like I can't. And then did you see him at training camp? Well, you didn't. Whoever's saying that, you didn't either. Like at this point, and you could say that he was inconsistent, which he was, but he needs reps. So this is the case of sample size. And I think a lot of people tell on themselves when they jump into the whole, I believe in Sam Darnold, even though I have this large amount of sample size that is showing me that he's not good, but I am done with Trey Lance because he showed me in 4 or 5 games that he needs some work and I don't think he'll ever be good. You kind of tell on yourself. If you are trying to get more information on Sam Darnold, then you should feel the same way about Trey Lance. That's all.
Let me tell you something. So, like, to me, the next Geno Smith in the league is not Darnold. It's Jameis. Like,
Jameis, baby.
If you want to compare those two, like, they're both turnover machines. Very questionable decision making. Both have turned the ball over a lot. But Jameis Winston has thrown for 5,000 yards. He's thrown for 4,000 yards 2 other times. He's thrown for 33 touchdowns in a season once and 28 touchdowns in a season once. Sam Darnold has never thrown for more than 3,000 yards. He's never thrown for more than 19 touchdowns in a season. He's never had the highs that Jameis has had. He's only had lows with a lot of turnovers, like losing play. I don't get it. He's not Geno.
Adam Gase. That's all Adam Gase and Matt Rule's fault. I mean, they're the ones throwing the ball to linebackers and safeties and corners. Like they're the ones.
But Jameis doesn't have excuses, right?
Jameis, and what else is funny is you want to talk about situation. Before he got injured and before Sean Payton left, he was playing his best football, and he wasn't just airing it out. Like it wasn't like when it was with Bruce Arians, everything was just no risk and no biscuit, just throw it. Yeah, and Todd Monken in that offense, it was just throw the ball, and it doesn't matter. Mike Evans down there somewhere, he'll go and get it. But so this does lend itself to a little bit of situation. But again, if we're gonna bet on who I'd rather have here, I would absolutely rather have Jameis Winston than Sam Darnold. And I would absolutely rather take a chance on his skill set because I've seen more, even though a lot of it is bad as well too with Jameis. I've seen more from Jameis than I have from Sam Darnold. Like it's not even close.
All right, we got to move on. But before we do, my final take here on what Mayoko said is if the 49ers are really walking around the building this offseason and whispering that they have brought in a quarterback who has the best skill set that's ever been in that building, shame on them. Come back to the real world, please.
Yep.
Join us on the real world. I don't know what the hell you're thinking.
That's another thing is with Kyle that I have a gripe with. When he has tunnel vision on a player, no matter what it is, wide receiver, quarterback, whatever, they can do no wrong, and that's it. I love this guy, and he's my guy. That's why you take CJ Beathard in the 3rd round. That's why you get into all of these, Jalen Hurd over Terry McLaurin. Like you get tunnel vision on what you think this player is, and you lose sight of the other circumstances and other players around him. So,
and it's crazy who he develops these crushes on. It was Brian Hoyer. It was CJ Beathard. It was never Jimmy. Doesn't really feel like it was ever Trey. Now it's Darnold? Like, really? Freaking Darnold? Like, you're the same guy who loves CJ Beathard, man. Why don't you chill? Have some self-awareness and relax.
One more thing that Kyle said that kind of bothered me, too. There's a reason he was taken number 3 about Sam Darnold.
Blake Bortles was taken number 3.
What's the reason you took number 3, Trey Lance? What's the reason?
Yeah, exactly. How do you pivot? Everything you're saying about Sam Darnold applies doubly to Trey Lance, and you think we don't notice? Dog.
And that really got me mad at the owners meeting when he said that. Like, how dare you talk about number 3 pick when you had the number 3 pick and you have him in your build? Like, just
you traded up for him too.
Oh,
Mark Lamar says Niners would trade up for Ant-Man because he fits the system and pass on Batman, Spider-Man, Iron Man. Hey, Ant-Man took down the entire Justice League. I liked Ant-Man. Ant-Man's a good movie.
Hold on. Mark is
Can't see
absolutely
him.
right because he's talking about tunnel vision with Kyle. Kyle, well, I like Ant-Man's moxie, and he's like
he fits what we want to do.
He fits what we want to do. We got a lot of confidence in him, and he's a great football player. And I just think that he's been cast
the biggest
at the end
guy.
of the Avenger movies. Yeah, he's not the biggest guy, but he's got that dog in him.
Yeah, pretty much. Flave says, if you put a high school quarterback in practice with the Niners, do you think you could tell that Brock is better, or would you need to see him in 16 games first?
I think Brock would be better than a high school quarterback. I don't think anybody's saying that he would be bad. Yeah, I mean, look, this is the thing about the league, right? And I'm not telling anybody to not be optimistic about Brock Purdy, because how could you not be? He was so good in those 8 games that they won. He technically, any game that he started and finished, they've never lost, right?
Right.
But you do want to see it happen again. You do understand that this league comes at you fast, and that people figure things out, and you want to make sure that he can do it again. But I'd have more confidence. I understand exactly why the 49ers are going to roll with Brock Purdy, because he does deserve at least that beginning shot to see if he can duplicate what he did last year.
I just think it's funny that Kyle's on the record saying that the thing about backup quarterbacks is they can play well for a stretch. You can win with them for a stretch, but either they get injured or the league figures them out. Like, okay, you've built this super team. You don't spend on quarterbacks. Like, you're built to be able to win for a stretch with your backup. You're built that way. Then you do it, and he gets hurt, and you're over there having like a conundrum. Like, you don't know. Like, you should know. That's your backup. Keep looking.
I love you, Kyle. But my God, the things that you say sometimes can be thrown right back in your face. Like,
all the time.
He literally said, that's the thing about backup quarterbacks. When they play, they end up getting exposed. So you believe that might happen with Brock, right? That's why I've never really been sold on this whole idea of them just trying to get rid of Trey Lance. They clearly want to move forward with Brock. But for a team that just had 4 quarterbacks injured, you think that the likeliest scenario and the smartest thing to do is to subtract quarterbacks, because Brandon Allen's in town now. I don't understand that. I don't understand that part.
No, I think Kyle understands what we think about. I think Kyle probably agrees with us about Brock. Great guy on the team, under contract, not going anywhere, but not necessarily the franchise quarterback. So the search continues. And then where he lost me was the Sam Darnold thing. That's where he lost me. But up until then, I totally agreed with him. Randall Riley says his last 6 games with the Panthers, he had a 48.5 QBR, which sucks, according to Randall Riley. I think, the technical term for that is sucking. True. Sorry. Nathan says, I have a feeling Sam Darnold will beat out Trey and start week 1. Much more experience, stronger arm, more speed. He will thrive in Kyle's system. Wow. I didn't know that he had a stronger arm and more speed than Trey.
I don't know.
Is he more red or hair?
Yeah. I mean, does he have the beard? Is the beard cooking? Like, I mean, that helps.
Does have the beard now.
All right. So that's, that kind of helps.
That does help.
Know, the world needs ball security, Craig. They need security in the world, Craig.
Thank you, Bishop B&A Music 88. Jameis' skin is too brown for some fans to think logically.
Oh, whoa.
Wow. Damn. The thing is, I don't understand why Jameis didn't get a look. He has to just be a backup for Derek Carr. Like, that's the next Geno, to me. So obvious, but league didn't see it that way. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
All right.
Shout out to my guy, Andrew Pasquini. He's been banging the table for him a long time.
He threw for 5,000 yards in a season. Sam Darnold will never, ever do that. Okay. The Niners, the only person they have more confidence in than Sam Darnold right now is Colton McKivitz. You ask them about right tackle, and they give you this look like, why would you question us? Like, Colton McKivitz is proven, baby. We won a game with him in 2022. We won a game with them in 2021. What more do you need to know? We can win with Colton McKivitz. Where does all this confidence come from?
I don't know, but I will say this. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on this one, because we had similar questions about Jake Brendel. Jake Brendel has started 3 games, and he was fine. He was fine. He played all 20 games. Didn't miss a game. He was fine, man. And you have to expect, even at age 31 with only 3 games, he has a chance to continue to build on that. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Last offseason, we set our watch to 2 things. Left tackle, right tackle. You know what both of them are. You know Trent's the man. You know what Mike is. But what's Banks, Brendel, and Burford going to be?
Correct.
And that didn't look as bad.
3/5 of the offensive line are question marks? That's no way for a Super Bowl contender. Yep.
All interior, right? And all of them have basically the same amount of experience.
Right.
So that kind of worked out well. I think at least in this instance, they have earned the benefit of the doubt with the right tackle thing. But
they have a great offensive line coach.
Yes. Chris Forrester's great. Having said that, though, Grant, at pick 99, Blake Freeland is there for you. And do you know who Blake Freeland is? You would have loved this pick if they would have took him, Grant. Blake Freeland.
He's Big Mike.
He's Big Mike.
He's Big Mike in round 3, though, which is where you can take Big Mike. Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. So, everybody railed on Mike McGlinchey because of where he was taken.
Exactly.
But Blake Freeland is exactly what he is. Great in the run game, athletic, can get to the second level, has issues in pass pro. But at pick 99,
little high cut, little light,
and pad levels a problem. Fine, okay.
Yep.
But at pick 99, you can deal with those bumps and bruises as opposed to pick 9.
And no one's mad that you took that guy with that limited skill set in round 3. That's where you take right tackles.
Right. And he fits exactly what you want to do. Like, it would have been glove in hand, right? The other question is this, though.
Yeah, they like McGlinchey. They were just embarrassed they took him top 10.
That's it. And then they realized his bag was going to be too big and they weren't going to pay that.
Exactly.
The thing is this, though. Are the 49ers acting like none of their offensive linemen have a chance of getting injured? Because
that's my question.
Matt Pryor.
Bad.
No.
No.
And if push come to shove and Matt Pryor has to play, I would rather see Feliciano taking the right guard and then move Burford out to right tackle.
Exactly. That's the problem. Can you win if McKivitz isn't on the field? What if Trent Williams or McKivitz misses a game? Who's your swing tackle? You don't have one.
That's the thing, right? Like, and again, so this whole draft has been justified by many people, including the 49ers. Well, we don't have needs as starters.
Mm-hmm.
But what about depth?
Right.
What about
so Nick Sickell better be good then. You better trust Nick Sickell.
That's what I'm saying. Like, again, like depth is important, and you had a chance to address it with a higher upside pick, but you took a kicker.
And then you took a blocking tight end. No disrespect to blocking tight ends out there, but offensive tackles are harder to find.
And Ladu should have went way later. Like I have way bigger hopes for Braden Willis. Way bigger hopes for him.
Yep.
But my thing is this. Look, when you get into this game of drafting because you don't have a need and you don't go best player available and you aren't trying to address your roster over and over again in certain spots, which they did at the end of the draft. So I don't want to. Yes, it is. Absolutely. Look at what Philly and Seattle just did. Now, stay with me because Philly and Seattle have high picks. They have first rounders. Who goes to the Super Bowl and then has a top 10 pick? The Philadelphia Eagles do. That's
right. Yep.
They lose Hargrave. Okay. Jalen Carter has questionable off the field stuff, but he falls to them. Could be really good. Another cornerback, another safety, Sidney Brown, another edge rusher, Nolan Smith.
Yeah.
They reloaded with cheap talent. Now, again, you don't play games on paper. You don't play them on paper. But goodness,
depth
man,
is not an issue for the Eagles.
Not at all. And you're looking at a team that is replenishing their roster in case guys lose, to bigger contracts, things like that. Because Jalen Hurts' contract doesn't toll this year, really. It's next year when it really starts.
And meanwhile, the Eagles did not take a step back. I mean, they held serve like the Niners did.
Right. But they had higher draft capital to invest. They did it the right way. They continued to replenish at the spots that they needed to. And again,
they're not like we were in the Super Bowl. We'll just take a kicker. Screw this draft. Like, no.
That kicker pick was so
arrogant.
Yeah.
just like Wisnowski 4 years ago. We're good. There's no one who could possibly help us down the line. Like, okay, you just passed on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Max Crosby, Tony Pollard. Like, dude, there's good players in round 4. Look at all the players you get in round 5.
You passed on Blake Freeland. You passed on Isaiah McGuire, who's an edge. You passed on wide receivers. You passed on corners. You passed on Keely Ringo.
You passed on 4 to 5 guys who are definitely going to be better than the guys you took. We just don't know who exactly they are yet, but we could probably guess.
That's my thing is, so with this McKivitz thing, and I see at 99, you see Blake Freeland sitting out there, man. And DeJuan Jones was on the board as well, too, from Ohio State. Yeah. I mean, I understand that there's a story out that he's telling people at the combine that he wanted to play in the NBA. Yeah.
Hey, that's what I heard about Armstead. No one cared. Armstead's first love was basketball, too. Are people going to hold that against him? He's playing football now.
It's just, my thing is I don't want to keep talking about this pick, but I really do feel like if they would have taken any position that was an actual football player, even if it was a player that I didn't agree with, I still would have been okay with it because you're investing in talent and actual football players. Right. And that's what they had to do with this pick at 99 or 101. Blake Freeland would have been perfect. You could play McKivitz this year. You don't have to start Freeland. You can let him develop if you think he has issues with pass pro, which he does.
Yeah.
But you give yourself depth and you give yourself a chance to have a starting right tackle for year after year instead of having a 2-year guy with McKivitz. Like, it just that pick will never make sense to me. I don't care who tries to justify it. Not John Lynch, not Kyle, not anybody. No one will be able to justify that pick for me. None.
Right. They're in a position where either Nick Zakelj becomes this do-it-all swing tackle, or Jalen Moore's the backup left tackle and Matt Pryor's the backup right tackle. Good Lord. So
Matt Pryor.
They made their bed. They seem okay with it. We'll see what happens. Battle Beast 19 says BP is a poor man's Tua. Tua hasn't lost a game he started and finished. He also took Jalen Hurts' job. Just a random thought. BP stock down this year.
Wait, didn't Tua lose to the Niners?
He got smacked, dude. So hard. And I felt like Tua, his confidence evaporated like on the field. You could see it go. I haven't seen that from Brock yet, but
the thing is in that game, because I had to watch it again because I got the Miami Dolphins offensive manual. There were so many drop passes in that game. Nobody was trying to help that kid out.
4 or 5.
Yeah,
it was true. Official BNA Music 88 says Sam Darnold equals 77.2 rating, 3,670 yards, 16 touchdowns, 16 interceptions in 18 games. Teddy Bridgewater, 92 rating, 3,700 yards, 15 touchdowns, 11 INTs in 15 games. Yeah, man, Sam Darnold's had a million chances. What about Teddy? What about Jameis? Those are
poor Sam.
Guys
why isn't anybody thinking of Sam? Why aren't you thinking of Sam and his fair shot, Grant? What? Why?
Poor Sam. Something no one has ever said. Poor Sam Darnold. Except for Frank Gore, who thinks he's really good. Sorry. No legit reason to hate Trey. Alternative motives. Again, I think it comes back to, remember, there's a very dedicated Jimmy Garoppolo fan base. Jimmy took a lot of ridicule from his own fans. Those fans took it personal, and they've been waiting to pay it back for years. So that's what it is. And if you ask them, they'll tell you, yeah, that's what it is. Don't dish it if you can't take it. That's what they'll say.
You know what I love? I have a popular sentiment on Twitter. It's possible to root as a 49er fan for each of these quarterbacks to be successful, right? Like, I don't want to see Sam Darnold play poorly for the Niners just so I can say, oh, haha, I told you he sucks.
Yeah.
But then
if you're fans, you would want to be wrong about Sam Darnold,
right?
Because you root for the team.
I'm good with that. But then the Jimmy fans are like, now do Jimmy. I'm like, well, he's a Raider, so I don't have to talk about him anymore.
So, and you're a Raider fan now too, right? Jorge, not like you, but them.
Not me, but yeah. I mean, if
follow your guy.
Again, the same thing. Won't somebody please think of Jimmy Garoppolo? Come on, dude. It's calm down. Like it's fair criticism at times.
Jorge Luis Sotelo says, greetings from the 305, gents. Great to see you talking Niner stuff together again.
Oh yeah, let's go.
Live from the 305. That's Miami, right? Because I know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I really enjoy Miami. People from the West Coast don't know the first thing about Miami. When people from the West Coast go to places to get warm, it's Hawaii or Mexico. And Miami is fun. It's like the Caribbean. It's really tight. Highly recommend it. Miami
is where the gangsters from New York go when they're retired and they go to live, man. There's a big New York contingency in Miami. I love going down there. The time that I would tell you to avoid is probably Memorial Day. That's probably when it's overrun. But you've been to Miami. I was there for the Super Bowl.
Wasn't there like a Lil Wayne song on like Father Like Son where it's like the chorus is gangsters don't die, they get heavy and they move to Miami.
And that's Jadakiss's line. That's Jadakiss's line.
Okay.
Which I'm sick that Jadakiss Bonds didn't get signed because we would have had so many good jokes.
So much fun. Yeah. Well, maybe they'll get Styles P.
But look, this Sheik Luch, erasure that you're doing here, like I don't like it. Yeah,
sorry,
I
can't even pronounce his name right.
Yeah, I know.
I'm a big Styles P guy. I feel like he never got enough credit.
My take that's unpopular. My take that's unpopular with Styles early on in his career with his first few albums was that his discography was better than Jadakiss's, even though Jadakiss is the better rapper, in my opinion.
Whatever that means. I'm a Styles guy.
Styles' first few albums are fire. Like, so Gangster and the Gentleman, Time is Money. Like those are really good albums. Good. And then Super Gangster and all those albums. Jada, Kiss the Game Goodbye hasn't really aged very well. I feel like Kiss of Death is his best album. Jada is the better rapper, in my opinion, but I think Styles has made better music in the beginning. That's how New Yorkers think, though. Like for New Yorkers, rap is very like almost like a sport. Like he's better. He's more technical. Like on the West Coast, it's like I like his delivery. I like his flow. I like his style. Like I will say this, yeah. My new favorite rapper right now, and I know we're away from 49 stuff, is Larry June. I know you're gonna say that. Yeah. I love Larry June's music, dude. I mean, and that album that he just put out with Alchemist is a banger. Every single song on that is dope, man. Shout out to Larry June, man. I like Alchemist. Alchemist been around a long time. Goated. Love Alchemist. Goated. Yep. He made that album with
D block, which was like Jadakiss. Who was in D block? Jadakiss and who?
Jadakiss, Styles, Sheik, that's the locks. J Hood was the other guy that was outside with the locks. And then they had a bunch of like, random guys that were there that didn't last too long. The core of D block is the locks. But it was J Hood, and now they're not cool anymore. And I implore anybody to watch their beef history on YouTube, because it's pretty funny.
We are D block. Mighty D block. Flave says Trey average QBR of 41.1 in his 3 full starts. Darnold's 45 QBR, but on a team that sucked and traded away. They're only good players with an interim coach. I don't know. Confused why people think Trey is better. I don't know. What was Steve Young's?
No, but this is the point. I'm so glad this comment's up. This is the point. 3 full starts. Yeah. I don't know why you think Trey is better. The whole idea is we need to see more of Trey. We don't need to see more of Darnold. I know what Darnold is. We don't know what Trey is. Trey could be bad. Yeah. Trey could be good. Yeah. But there's no way you're going to tell me.
You can't judge a handsome young quarterback like Sam Darnold after 55 starts. It's just not fair. Now, I'm making it rain jerk like Trey Lance. 3's enough, dude.
He needs more time. He needs more time. 55 is not enough, man. Let's give him another 50 starts before we can figure that out. So.
Let's wait till he's 35. Jimmy couldn't stop Mahomes. The D had to and failed. Jimmy couldn't stop Mahomes. The D had to and failed. Yeah, Jimmy definitely could not stop Mahomes. Jimmy tried, though. Just couldn't play defense. It's going to be funny when Trey has an MVP level season.
See, all right. So look, Battle Beast, and I like your avatar as well too. This is the type of hyperbole I want people to stay away from on both sides, right? What we're doing with Trey Lance, what we should be doing is gathering information. And that's the problem with the whole 49ers quarterback situation. Let me sum it up with all 3 guys. Brock, he makes plays like Mahomes, and he's already on his way to the Hall of Fame. Trey's done.
Joe Montana 2.0.
Yeah, Trey's done. Let's move on from him.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold just needs a little bit more time. He could be really good.
Yeah.
Those are the extremes.
He could be better than Brock.
These are the extremes. With Brock and with Trey, what you should be doing is gathering information still. You can be excited about Brock. 8 games, he was incredible. I'm not going to take that away from him. He absolutely deserves to get the quarterback 1 reps. But there needs to be more that you need to see. Plenty of players have done well for 8 games, 10 games, and never done anything. I'm not saying that that's where Brock's destined for, but let's pump the brakes. And then let's pump the brakes on just dismissing Trey Lance after 5 starts because you think you know something that nobody else knows. It's strange to me. You should be having your pad out and gathering information. When you get to a larger sample size, you'll get to it. No, you're good.
The guy who says, chill on Sam Darnold, you don't know, like, that's a legit take.
It is.
Totally legit take. But I feel like that same guy should be like, double chill on Trey. For all the reasons I just said about Sam. Like, you really got to stop writing off these young guys. Sam's 25, Trey's 22, chill. Like, Joe didn't even break out until he was 25. Like, these guys come in the league at 21, they get thrown away by 24. That's a legit take. But to be like, hey, man, Sam Darnold hasn't gotten a fair shake, and screw Trey Lance is a little strange.
That's my thing. It's almost everything that people who are defending Sam Darnold and what he can be, you need to use that in the same way that you're talking about Trey Lance. Like, you're literally
but what people say is like, well, Sam, Sam's been in bad situations. Trey's had everything handed to him. Has Trey been in a good situation? We talked about that, man. Yeah. He's been unrealistic expectations have been thrust upon him. He's been in a situation where he had to be better than vets right away. There was no patience with Trey at any point when the book on him was, hey, you got to be patient.
No Kittle in week 1 in Chicago. No Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, McCaffrey came in the middle of the season, and he made everybody better. Look at Jimmy Garoppolo's numbers with that as well too.
The one time he had a full game with Elijah Mitchell, he won. The one time.
Right. I'm just trying to. This is my overarching point. The rush to judgments are insane, and it should be about gathering information. Unfortunately, I don't believe Trey Lance is in the right situation where they will give him that opportunity, especially if Brock's ready in week 1. So
they better hope that dude doesn't land somewhere where they give him the right opportunity and he turns into the next Steve Young.
All right. Because do you want to know what the
last
straw would be?
Then you'll be the Buccaneers.
Do you want to know what the last straw would be with this organization in the quarterback position? Is if they get rid of Trey Lance and Trey Lance develops into what they thought he would be at 3. That would
at
be
that
the last
point.
straw.
It would probably even the Yorks would have to be out. Be like,
that would be the last straw.
That would be 10 years.
You
Yeah.
bungled the quarterback position so badly that Trey Lance turns into the guy you thought he would be on another team. That's embarrassing.
And you had him in your facility for years and you didn't see it, dude.
And
Can't
you know
trust
what's funny? You know what's funny? I mean, everybody knows I wanted Justin Fields, right?
Right.
But what I was saying about the evaluation process and when we were going to know about these guys, Mac, Justin, Trevor's that guy now. Like, that's it. Like, he's good. He's out of here. Like, we don't have to talk about him anymore. It was a 3-year thing. I said, you're going to have to give them 3 years. Well, Justin Fields just had his best season, even though he's not really, where he needs to be passing. He actually made plays, and let's see if he takes another leap. Mac had an up and down season last year. He's going into year 3. We have sample sizes on both of them. I think the most frustrating part for 49ers fans is this is year 3 with Trey Lance, and we still are asking the same questions about.
It's essentially year 1.
It is. It is, and they are not going to give him the time, unfortunately. I dislike that for him.
Yeah. Well, but again, the Niners, they have their plans. There's what the Niners want to happen, and this is what happens. Like, the Niners didn't know Brock Purdy was anything. They wanted Jimmy Garoppolo to replace Trey Lance when Trey Lance went down. And then when Jimmy Garoppolo went on a run, there were reports that the Niners might give him an extension. I mean, there's a world where Jimmy's on this team right now with a fat extension because they didn't know that Brock Purdy was good. And then they found out, and they're like, oh, wow, we knew it the whole time. You didn't.
The revisionist history. Grant, let's do a little memory lane real quick on Brock Purdy. So I went to training camp every single day.
Yes.
You did too.
So did I.
You did too.
Yeah.
Let's set the scene. Trey Lance is taking all the first team reps. Nate Sudfeld's right after. Jimmy Garoppolo's running back and forth on the other field. And certain days, Brock Purdy would get 2 reps.
4, 5.
Reps? Okay.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
But there's this overarching narrative somehow, Grant, as if you and I weren't there and everybody else wasn't there. He was dynamite in training camp.
Lights out.
What? He threw the first interception. He threw the first interception in training camp. He barely got reps on certain days. Some days I didn't even know he was there.
Right.
But this whole narrative about training camp is so ridiculous because it's not even close to being true. My take.
That's why I told that Brett dude to shut up. I was like, dude, you were there for 3. I didn't even know he was there. But he was like, no, I was there for 3 days. Okay, shut up, dude. What are you talking about?
So my take on Brock Purdy's training camp was right. My issue and my mistake on what Brock Purdy was going to be was me writing him off and not thinking that he could do it in the game. But what's funny to me is there were days where Brock Purdy threw passes and you were like, he would throw it and Ayuk's running wide open and it would just die in the air. And, Charvarius Ward would come down with it or it would be somebody else.
Yeah, it would.
And that is not used as a slight at Brock Purdy, but Trey Lance's performance in training camp and not in games is the reason why everybody's like, oh man, you had to see him at training camp to know. Yeah, he was inconsistent because he needed reps.
Yeah.
But why does his work out more? And then here's your final take on how
also he's a gamer, right? Jimmy's a gamer. Brock's right. They developed this gamer reputation. And so all of a sudden nothing they do in practice matters.
One more thing, and this is how you know the 49ers weren't like all the way in because I predicted he was going to make the practice squad. Guess what? He did. And you know why he did? Because they brought back Jimmy Garoppolo. And if they thought Brock Purdy was that guy, they would have kept him on the roster and just cut Nate Sudfeld and just rolled with them two. But they didn't.
Yeah, you didn't need Jimmy.
But they did.
In retrospect, they didn't need Jimmy. They wasted time on Jimmy. Brock should have started week 3 or week 1. One of the two. One of the two. Either he was the guy who killed it, like some people say, and should have been starting week 1, or he should have been the backup. No way, he should have been QB3 if you saw it.
It's funny to me that everybody says, "Oh, they knew and they loved him." Well, if they loved him, they wouldn't have. They would have taken whatever they could get for Jimmy Garoppolo. They would have cut Nate Sudfeld, and they would have rolled with Trey and Brock, or kept Sudfeld on the practice squad, whatever it was. Like it,
of course,
none of that lines up. And again, with training camp, please don't tell me anything about training camp if you weren't there.
Or you were there for a minute and a half.
Or like there would be days where he would have 3 reps, legit 3 reps, and just get off the field because they had to give all of those to Trey because they were trying to get him up to speed because he was the starter.
Third stringers don't get a lot of reps, guys.
This narrative that he was dominant is ridiculous. It's
most of the third stringers don't make the team, so they don't get that many reps. Nelson, thank you very much. Jonathan Sterling says, I don't know if you have, but can you rank the UDFA that you think are the best?
What's that young man's name? The running back.
Kalen Laburn.
Yes.
I've been calling him LeBorn. Is Laburn.
5-star recruit. He definitely is the guy that I could see that's why I'm glad he didn't take a running back this draft. He's probably the Jordan Mason of this team this year that's going to make the roster.
He reminds me of Elijah Mitchell, but with more of an NFL body. I don't know if he's as fast as Mitchell because Mitchell is very fast. Joey Fisher he's a project. He's a tackle who might need to move to guard or center. Maybe he could play tackle. I don't know. But he seems like a guy who could become a starter, but probably not. I mean, he has 32-inch arms. You tell me one starting offensive tackle in the NFL with 32-inch arms. I haven't checked, but I just can't imagine. One. No. I don't think so. On my way from home from working, suffering the effects of a GI infection from Mexico, on my way to La Sainte-Wicherie. Oh, man. Sorry you got the GI infection, but La Sainte-Wicherie is the bomb. Love that place in Miami, dude. Have you ever? It's dope.
Never.
It's on South Beach, so it's really good. The professional guy says Niners need 3 franchise quarterbacks at this point. Kyle is banana hints.
No, Grant, they gotta trade Trey Lance, man. They
have 4 franchise quarterbacks right now. Brandon Allen, sleep on him at your own peril. That's the next Geno, Brandon Allen.
Brandon Allen was the secret sauce to Joe Burrow. Don't sleep on him. That's the reason.
He actually developed Joe Burrow single-handedly. Did you know that?
Not Zach Taylor. Him. Yeah.
Yeah. Taught him everything he knows. All right, man. I'm done streaming for the day. Thank you, everyone, for watching and donating your time and your money. How you doing? What are you doing the rest of the day, weekend?
The Lakers and Warriors, I think, are tonight, aren't they?
That's right.
So that's big. I'm probably gonna put some money down. I don't know on what yet, because I bet the Warriors in game 1. That kind of jumped right back in my face. But my daughter's off tomorrow, so I don't have to take her to school. But I'm also, for all the parents out there, you know how this works. She comes home with a cough. I get the cough. I'm the one who winds up getting way more sick than her. Yeah. And I'm fighting through it. Sorry. What are you gonna do? I love my daughter.
I have a prediction that the Warriors. I have a prediction the Warriors are gonna stomp the Lakers tonight. Feels like like what happened with the Boston and Philly, right? Yeah. Philly wins game 1. They got what they came for. They just don't even show up for game 2.
The thing is, and there's another way to look at it. And I really enjoyed what the Lakers did in terms of clogging the lane, even though that's not the Warriors game. They want to shoot a bunch of threes and everything as well too. But I do feel like some of those shots that LeBron took are probably going to go down this game eventually as well too. Yeah. So it's you're playing a dangerous game with them right now, because if LeBron hits more of those shots, you're putting more pressure. And my goodness, Jordan Poole, what are you doing, dude? Like, what happened? What was that?
Do you not watch him very much? Because that's what he does every time he plays.
Oh no, I don't watch basketball that much. I just like during the time that now I it's in between draft season and everything else is kind of
now's a good time to watch.
Yeah, now's a good time, and I'm betting a little bit more. I watched that entire Kings Warriors series because that was a lot of fun, man. And I didn't know Kings and Warriors fans hated each other so much, man. I thought there was toxicity on 49ers Twitter. Good God. NBA Twitter, Kings Twitter, Warriors Twitter, you guys are wild.
The way I look at this Lakers Warriors series is that the Lakers, they're very good, but they're essentially shooting 2s. And the Warriors essentially shoot 3s. And that's bad math for the Lakers. The reason they won game 1 is they shot 29 free throws, which I know they shoot the most free throws in the league, but I have a feeling once the series gets tighter and deeper, I just feel like they're not gonna win a series I'm sorry.
Yo, Greg, you are a New Yorker.
I'm sorry.
No, you know what you should do? I'm sorry. Like I hate to take away from your NBA take, but you saying that. So do you know that Mason Cameron have a YouTube show about sports?
Do they?
Yes.
Mason Cameron?
Mason Cameron. I implore anybody.
Did they have beef for a while?
They did. They squashed it. They performed horsing carriage for the first time ever at the Apollo Theater. Giles. I think like 2 months ago. But they have a show called It Is What It Is or something like that.
Nice.
Bro, if you take a shot every time that they say pause, you're done after 15 minutes of watching the show. Like, what is it? Mace says, I'd give it to Barkley, pause, whoa. And then Cameron was like, whoa, that's wild. He was like, I wasn't gonna let you slide on that one. I'm telling you, you'd love that, Greg. If you got the rest of the night on before that,
I gotta watch that, man. Those are 2 of my favorite rappers of all time. I love the Harlem rappers. Battle B says Moxie and Gamer such mid-Q words.
Moxie, Gamer, what is it? Baller,
Gritty.
Lunch Pail, all Gritty, all of those things. Gritty. They all fall into the same category.
All right, I'm getting out of here before anyone sends any more donations. Thank you very much, everyone. Sorry I had to end the show on such a strange note.